One of my followers said, at Authority, can you talk about tribalism in Nigeria? The propaganda from the Igbos are getting stronger every day, that Yorubas are tribalistic in nature. Can you shed more light? I love your speech. Thank you very much for following. Now, let me start by saying Nigeria is a conglomerate of nations that was amalgamated into one country in 1914 by Lord Lugard. So whether you like it or not, whether you want to admit, whether you want to accept, there will be some iota of tribal sentiment in all of us. It varies per tribe in percentage because you cannot do without it. There will be iota, some pinch of tribal sentiment when it comes to decision. But most of the times, I want to tell you, I've traveled to more than 15 states. Nigerians are good people. Nigerians are kind. Nigerians are less tribal in any other aspect of life. When it comes to business, when it comes to, hospital, you can't get to the hospital now and ask if the doctor that want to treat you is Yoruba or Igbo. The only problem Nigerians have that shows our tribal intolerance is when we are talking in terms of power and politics. And that is where our tribal games comes in most of the time. And it all started from 1966 when this guy, Kaduna Nzwegu, and there's this another guy, Ifya Juna, then I think Victor Banjo, when they led the first coup. I'm not sure if it is Victor Banjo, but a Yoruba guy was also part of that coup. So, and the coup was not perfect because in that coup, they were able to get Ahmadu Bello, they were able to get Tafawa Balewa, they were able to get Ladoke Akintola, who was the primer for Western region because Awolowo was in jail. And miraculously, surprisingly, we don't know how it happened. Nnamdi Azikiwe escaped that coup. And that is the genesis of tribal war and sentiment in Nigeria. Nnamdi Azikiwe, miraculously, there have been special different accounts on how he escaped. Somebody said a prime minister from, I can't remember now, maybe Bolivia or something, came to visit him. So Nnamdi Azikiwe went to the airport to meet with him. It was then he got to know that the coup is on, and he escaped with the private jet of that person and all of that. They gave different accounts. I'm not sure which one holds, but whichever way, miraculously Nnamdi Azikiwe escaped that coup. And since that day, the Northerners believe that it was a deliberate attempt to allow Nnamdi Azikiwe out of that coup, while Ahmadu Bello and Tafawa Balewa was killed alongside with Akintola. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Agui Irozi happens to be one of the highest ranking military generals at that time. So the military took over. And Agui Irozi was in power for 6 months. I was able to watch one of the videos. In that video, Agui Irozi seems to be in a dilemma. He doesn't know what to do. Even the way he was giving the speech shows that he lacks, will I say, confidence or the directional way to go. Because I was thinking that Agui Irozi was supposed to call for the arrest of Ifya Juna, Kaduna Nzwegu, and I think it is Victor Banjo. Like, he was supposed to arrest them. Even if you are not going to kill them, like, let them be in detention. Let the North and the South know that, oh, you'll be dealing with these guys. But he could not make the arrest until there was a counter coup. Now, the counter coup make it more interesting because the counter coup now happened in Ibadan. Agui Irozi left Lagos to visit the military general in Western region, Adekunle Fajuyi. So it was in complaint of Adekunle Fajuyi that Agui Irozi was killed. Stories were told that Adekunle Fajuyi thought it twice that if he also allowed Fajuyi to be killed in Ibadan, it will cause another tribal uproar. So it was said that Adekunle Fajuyi insisted that they rather kill the both of them. And in sincere thought, in most of the accounts, it was said that the people who came for Agui Irozi had no intention to kill Adekunle Fajuyi. But Adekunle Fajuyi said no, they rather kill the both of us. It was also insinuated that Muritala Mohammed was part of the soldiers that led the coup in Laluku and Ibadan. Are you getting the game now? Now, after Agui Irozi was killed, alongside Adekunle Fajuyi, they said the Queen of England intervened, and in her intervention, she thought it twice that we should get somebody from the middle belt. That will not be Igbo, that will not be Yoruba, that will not be Hausa to be the head of state. That was how Yakubu Gowon came to be. And if you look at it very well, Yakubu Gowon seems to have the longest military reign, I think about 9 years. Before the same Muritala Mohammed that was, said to have led the coup that saw to the end of Agui Irozi and Adekunle Fajuyi was the one that upset, what's it called now? Yakubu Gowon. Yakubu Gowon saw through the civil war. These issues of the, what's it called now? The Ahmadu Bello that was killed in Kaduna and all of that generated into so many things. The Hausa started killing Igbos in the north and all of that. Ojukwu, who was of course, top-ranking military general in Nigeria, also lead a succession. That was another story entirely. Yakubu Gowon was able to see through the war. But another thing happened. During the war, it was said that all the instruction given to Muritala Muhammad by Yakubu Gowon was not adhered to. So Muritala Muhammad already showed sense of disloyalty to Yakubu Gowon. Eventually, he came to upset him from power. So if you began to look at it down the line, I would say that majorly our tribal sentiment appears whenever it comes to power and politics. Aside from that, I think Nigerians are cool. I've been to the east. I lived in Enugu. I've been to Onitsha. I've been to, some part of. One thing I've discovered that when you see people who are learned, if you meet an Igbo guy who are learned, they are fantastic. If you meet an Hausa guy who is learned, they are fantastic. Yoruba guys who are learned and exposed, let me put it that way, learned and exposed. Probably they have traveled out of their comfort, they have traveled out of their region. But most of the time, people who are hell-bent on tribal sentiment are people who have not left their comfort zones. They have not traveled out of their region to other regions. They have not met, so they can't really say that this is what an Igbo guy has done to them. They can't really say this is what in appreciation. So they really did not understand. And I can tell you, there is actually strength in our diversity. Yes, there's strength in our diversity. Some people blame the amalgamation. I also blame the amalgamation because I felt maybe in 1954, when they started pushing for the independence, they should have pushed for this amalgamation and let everybody go back to their regions. But one way or the other, I think we are better off as a big nation. But then we should push for regional government. That one being said, I still maintain that our bigotry, ethnicity, religious intolerance, and all of that comes to play when we are looking at politics. So it is for power juxtaposed, for power manipulation that we begin to play tribal sentiment. But aside from that, if you look at in sport, people from Eastern Nigeria, if you look at our great people in sport, they are from the South. You talk of Kanu, you talk of Okocha, you talk of Muda Lawal, you talk of Rashidi Yekini. In sport, we are doing well. When it comes to agriculture, it's interwoven. Let me just put it that way. It is interwoven. But most of the time, our tribal sentiment comes from politics and power.
Who is this person asking that question that the propaganda from the Igbos are getting stronger every day, that Yorubas are tribalistic in nature? I love the way this guy just really puts everything in proper perspective. Who would have thought that Sheyi Tinubu is marrying an Igbo woman, a core Igbo woman from Anambra? Who would have thought? And Yeremi Tinubu came at one time and said, Igbo, trust me, we cannot trust you. You people cannot be trusted. You are not be voting for us and all of this nonsense. Who would have thought that her son-in-law, her daughter-in-law, is an Igbo woman? Who would have thought? And that is how majority of them do say, see this guy, this that's a guy Chinedu, Rose Vival, that wanted to contest. See the way they just messed the whole thing up. Oh, this from Igbo. They don't want a Igbo blood. Majority of them are marrying Igbos. So when it comes to politics, that is when you see the politician using that, and people are so gullible to the level of listening to all these politicians. Yes, that is when the real tribalism comes, not on a day-to-day living. All the people they are talking, most of them be forgotten that some of their friends are Igbos, some of their friends are Yoruba, some of their friends are Hausas. But when it comes to politics, that is when they remember that slogan, tribalism and all of that. That is exactly what they use. And the likes of Bayo Nonoga, that is the reason why some people try to use that as an excuse that why the Yorubas, yes, that they are the most tribalistic and whatever, that is a propaganda. I like the perspective that this guy really came on this. Is bravo, bro. The Igbo in Lagos are always called Yoruba names because they want to take over Lagos. Igbo in Ibadan, Abeokuta, and so on, never called Yoruba names. Well, you haven't even seen Hausa and Fulani with Yoruba names. I have a theory because Nigeria wanted a leader from the Middle Belt. Who was it even party to any of the coup? They chose Yakubu Gowon. Yakubu Gowon was a lot younger, and all the top ranking military officers then Also Ojukwu, Obasanjo, and Muritala all outranked Yakubu. Hence, why they didn't even respect him when he became head of state. Zik, who was the president, went abroad on sick leave and never came back after his leave period until the coup happened. He was out before the coup and was teleguiding them. So guys, let's say your opinion and have your take on this.